My husband refused to wear clothes around my daughter. I had to make a painful decision. I, 34F, got married 2 months ago to my now ex-husband, 37M, believing he would be a stable figure for my 12-year-old daughter. From the beginning of our relationship, I knew that he liked to walk around the house without clothes, but he assured me that he would stop this habit when my daughter was around. Naively, I trusted his promise. My daughter spent the summer away visiting my parents. During this time, my husband and I enjoyed the freedom of a newlywed couple, and everything seemed to be going well. But as soon as my daughter returned, things changed. The first day she arrived, I caught my husband walking around the house naked. At first, I thought it was an oversight and ignored it. I spoke to him calmly and asked him to at least wear a robe. He rolled his eyes and said I was exaggerating, but reluctantly agreed. However, days later, I realized that he was not following through on what was agreed. My daughter started to withdraw into herself and avoid spending time at home. When I asked what was going on, she confessed to me that she felt extremely uncomfortable with his behavior. My heart broke when I saw my daughter curled up on the couch, her eyes downcast and a hesitant tone in her voice. I knew I couldn't ignore it. I confronted him again. He defended himself, saying it was just the human body and that there was nothing wrong with that. I insisted that, regardless of intent, my daughter's discomfort was real and should be respected. He shook his head, but promised once again that he would stop. But he didn't stop. Last night, when I returned from the kitchen to the bedroom, I saw something that left me cold. My husband was standing, completely naked, outside my daughter's room, playing on his cell phone. My stomach turned. My heart raced. My mind filled with questions and fears. When he noticed me watching him, he frowned as if I was being irrational. I froze for a second before asking what the hell he was doing there like that. He laughed and said I was stifling his freedom and that it was ridiculous for me to act like something was wrong. But something inside me screamed that this wasn't right. The way he carried himself, his defensive expression, everything seemed like a big warning sign. That's when I realized I had no idea what else could be happening when I wasn't around. My biggest fear was that he had crossed an even bigger line without me knowing. I asked how long he had been exposing himself to my daughter, and he reacted defensively and aggressively. He exploded, saying that I was making a tempest in a teacup and that my daughter was responsible for ruining our marriage. My heart sank when I heard that. No child should be held responsible for an adult relationship, much less something like this. That was the snap I needed. No man who loves his wife would blame a child for a situation like this. My maternal instinct kicked in, and I knew I needed to protect her. I told him to leave the house immediately. He refused at first, but I threatened to call the police if he exposed himself again. He grabbed his things and left, slamming the door. This morning, I filed for divorce. I'm devastated. I still feel guilty for ignoring the signs earlier, for not being more firm from the beginning. But at the same time, I know I did the only thing that should be done. My role as a mother will always be to protect my daughter, and no relationship is worth more than her safety. First of all, thank you everyone for your support. Reading the comments helped me reaffirm that I made the right decision. Many asked if I contacted the authorities. Yes, I am already taking all legal measures. I also spoke to my daughter and made it clear that she is safe now. I know this could have caused trauma, so I'm already looking for therapy for her. Another thing, after he left, I received some messages from him and some family members trying to change my mind. They said I was exaggerating, that men are just like that, and that my daughter was creating unnecessary drama. This type of reaction made me even firmer in my decision. If he had done this to my daughter and no one cared, who knows what could have happened? I found out that he is living at his mother's house and telling everyone that I was a controlling wife who destroyed the marriage for nothing. Honestly, I don't care what he says. I just want to move forward with my daughter and make sure she never goes through something like this again. I'm still processing everything, but I know the worst is over. Thanks again for all the support. It's been a week since I kicked my ex out of the house, and things have been intense. As expected, he didn't take the breakup well and has been trying to get in touch in every way possible. He sent me emails, messages, and even asked mutual relatives to intercede for him. I didn't respond to anything. My daughter, on the other hand, seems to be slowly recovering. The first night after she left, she had nightmares and came to sleep with me. I asked her if she wanted to speak to a professional, and she agreed. Today was our first session with a child therapist who specializes in trauma, and I felt like it was a huge step towards her healing. Furthermore, I went to the police station to file a police report. Even though he hasn't committed an explicit crime yet, he wanted to keep everything documented. I also talked to a lawyer to speed up the divorce. He assured me that with the evidence and testimony I have, I will be able to get a restraining order without much trouble. The most disturbing thing was a conversation I had with a neighbor yesterday. She told me that a few weeks ago she saw my ex in a towel on the balcony of our apartment, just as my daughter was getting home from school. She thought it was strange, but didn't want to pry. This made me even more uncomfortable, as it reinforces that this behavior may have happened more times than I imagined. Today, I finally got the restraining order against my ex. The judge did not hesitate to grant it after presenting the evidence and my daughter's testimony. I felt enormous relief, but also deep pain when I realized that all of this really happened. My daughter started opening up more during therapy sessions. She confessed that, in addition to the discomfort, she began to be afraid of being alone at home because of his behavior. It broke my heart, but it also reinforced that I made the right decision. My ex still tries to contact me, but now, any attempt to get closer could result in legal consequences. I know we still have a long way to go to complete healing, but I finally feel like we are on the right track. Here is the continuation of the story in more depth, taking into account the events that unfold after the separation. The narrative will expand to continue in the direction you want. A few more weeks have passed and things remain tense. The divorce process is progressing slowly, but the most difficult thing has been dealing with the external reactions. My ex-husband has been relentless in his attempts at manipulation and has resorted to various tactics to try to change my mind or put me against the wall. I got an email from him yesterday where he basically said he was sorry about everything and that he could change. He claimed he was in therapy and wanted to try to save the marriage. The attempt at manipulation was so clear that it was almost unbearable. He still tries to convince me that he has the right to be himself even if it means disrespecting my daughter and our privacy. I can't deny that he is persuasive and that these words moved me a little, but at the same time, I see how much he still doesn't understand the gravity of what he did. I have received support from my family and friends, who continue to remind me that my priority must be my daughter. We spoke several times, and she continues to deal with the trauma in a way that, although painful, is important to the healing process. She has shown signs of a gradual recovery, but there are still times when she shuts down and has difficulty coping. I respect that and try to be there for her in whatever way she needs. In therapy, my daughter began to open up about how she really felt about my ex-husband's behavior. Although she was hesitant at first, she has now been able to verbalize her emotions, which has been a big step for her. The therapist guided us to maintain open communication and establish a safe space where she could express herself without fear of judgment. Today, she asked me if things would ever be the same as before. I knew what she meant. She wanted to know if things could go back to the way they were, with a whole, happy family. It was a difficult question to answer because I know that in some ways the family she knew no longer exists. But I also know that as a mother, I can provide her with a safe and loving environment, even if it is no longer with the man she considered a father. In the last week, progress has been more significant, but also full of challenges. I was thinking that maybe things would start to normalize, but the universe has a funny way of testing our strength. One of the biggest challenges was dealing with the constant temptations for reconciliation that my ex-husband continues to throw at me. Today, he called me and asked to meet in person. He was insisting that we had to talk about what happened and how it affected our family. He said he knew he had made a mistake, but that he was now different, as if simply changing his stance would be enough to erase the damage he had caused. It was clear that he still didn't understand the depth of the problem. Of course, I refused. I can't even imagine putting myself in a situation where he might try to emotionally manipulate me again. I've seen his manipulations before. He has a gift for using words to make me doubt my own decisions. However, the last thing I'm going to do now is give in to any kind of pressure. My daughter and I are starting our lives again, and that's something I can't let go of. However, I received some disturbing news this afternoon. My daughter has started showing more signs of stress. She told me that the day my ex-husband tried to call me, she had a nightmare about him. The dream was vivid and terrifying to her. It made me realize that even though the situation with my ex has affected my emotional life, the impact on my daughter is even deeper and more complicated. I've decided it's time to start making her feel more emotionally safe. I spoke to the therapist to find out what we can do to help my daughter overcome this trauma. The therapist advised me to be patient and continue offering unconditional support, but she also warned me about the importance of establishing new limits and allowing her the chance to be a child again, without the weight of what happened. Now, more than 2 months have passed since the day my life turned upside down. Every day, things become clearer, and although the pain of separation is still present, it is no longer as intense as before. I have been learning to live again, and my daughter is also beginning to find her own path to healing. The divorce is almost final, and fortunately, my attorney has been very effective in making sure the process goes as smoothly as possible. My ex-mother-in-law, who has tried to intercede in some situations, has been a little difficult to deal with, but there is no more room for negotiations or regrets. I can no longer allow my daughter or I to be affected by anyone's manipulation. The real struggle now is with the feeling of loss. Although the decision to separate was the right one, loneliness still hits from time to time. It's been hard to start over and deal with the fact that the marriage I imagined will no longer exist. I know I made the right decision for the sake of my daughter's safety, but that doesn't mean the road has been easy. There are times when I miss someone to share the small victories and difficult moments of everyday life with. However, my daughter has been my greatest source of strength. She has surprised me every day, demonstrating resilience and courage. The therapy sessions have been vital for her. There are days when she laughs more, lets go more, and even plays with more energy. Although there are still moments of sadness and anxiety, I can see the signs that she is healing, step by step. Today, she told me that she wanted to get back to doing the things she loved before, like playing the guitar and spending time with her friends. This gave me a great relief. I don't want my daughter to live in fear or with the weight of what happened. I want her to be happy and healthy. Week after week, I begin to see more clearly how this experience has shaped both my life and my daughter's life. During this time of recovery, I have dedicated myself to finding ways to help my daughter feel safe again. She has expressed that while she feels like she is overcoming it, the fear is still present. Today we had an important conversation. She told me that, at times, she is still afraid that something will happen to her, and that breaks my heart. The feeling that your life was cut short by someone we trusted is hard to explain, but I'm doing my best to help you rebuild. I decided to start self-defense classes with her and also start exploring outdoor activities, something that will help her rebuild her confidence. I want her to know that the world is full of opportunities, and that she shouldn't get caught up in what happened. Every day is a chance to write a new story for her. The journey has been long, but I can finally look back and see how much we've evolved. As a mother, I never imagined I would go through something like this, but there are no regrets anymore. My daughter's safety has always been my priority. The divorce process is finally over, and the restraining order against my ex-husband is still in effect. Although I have been silent about some aspects of our separation, I know that making difficult decisions was best for our peace of mind. I also sought more counseling on how to deal with what happened. It's a journey I never imagined, but I feel like I can move forward now. Today, looking at my daughter, I see a girl who is stronger and more confident than before. The journey isn't over yet, but I can see how much it has grown. Our life is new now, and even with the challenges, I'm grateful that we're in a better place. No matter what comes next, I will be by her side. Recovery will be ongoing, but with love, patience, and support, I believe we can overcome anything. I thank everyone for their support during this time. Without you, I don't know how I would have handled all of this. We move forward, stronger, more united.